In Australia, the Productivity Commission has reported that many of the key indicators of Indigenous disadvantage across the country are getting worse. It says there's been a drop in Indigenous mortality rates and less reliance on welfare. But as Jane Barden reports, the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is widening in health, imprisonment and education.
Governments are trying to reduce Indigenous disadvantage with programs like building new houses in the Northern Territory. The Productivity Commission has found the billions of dollars spent are barely scratching the surface.
We have an enormous distance to go before we can claim to be succeeding in closing the gap in a lot of areas.
There's so much to do, but you can see projects and plans around the nation that are making a real difference.
The Commission found improvements in Indigenous secondary school attainment and less reliance on welfare, but not in the remote areas. It says domestic violence and child abuse are increasing, and locking up more Aboriginal people isn't helping. The opposition, however, is advocating more tough love.
We want to see the laws of attending school applied everywhere. The law that if there is an appropriate level of training or a job, you have to take it.
Indigenous mortality rates reduced slightly, but Indigenous hospitalisation rates for preventable acute and chronic conditions increased, and the gap with other people widened.
Unless things are done to build capacity within the communities for individuals and some communities as a whole, then in another 10 years we're not going to see much improvement.
Indigenous organisations also want more investment in community-run programs.
In terms of moving into full-time employment, sending children to school, putting in skills that are necessary for families to function.
The Productivity Commission says Indigenous community leaders must be involved in designing and evaluating programs. Jane Barden, Lateline.